Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome in to the LA Sparks 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA and your two-time WNBA champion Los Angeles Sparks. Welcome back, folks, to LAS 365 again. Coming in back here, folks, with another day here of recapping what was almost the end of the WNBA and the Sparks. This is Sparks Watch 1 year later. Day number 4. Good evening, everybody. Cal McClure joining you folks here again. So tonight here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Folks, last night we got talking about the petition campaign. And we have to give a shout out real quick to, again, one of the people that really kept the fan base of the entire league in the loop, Albert Lee from Switchfield.com, with a tremendous article sent out this morning about 11 a.m. my time, at least here in San Diego. Albert, thank you so much again, man, for your continued effort here in supporting the network with your tremendous effort, your and James and Nate's great effort at Switchfield.com. They linked you guys to the video from last night's show, and Albert basically, gave a rundown of everything that I said on here last night in regards to the Spark situation. But tonight, folks, some good news in a way during this day of the watch, all it being for the wrong reasons. The first group comes in today, which is the Golden State Warriors. And if you folks remember back here on this date last year when Chris and I were here on the Sports Lounge on January 6th, we had talked about again that the Warriors were the first group to come forward and say that we want interest in this franchise. And they became the main suitors, or the initial first, the very first suitors for the Sparks. Now again, folks, the very first article we got today from Michelle Smith goes as follows here. The Golden State Warriors on Friday confirmed their interest in operating a WNBA franchise a day after the league announced that the Los Angeles Sparks ownership group had ceased operations of the team and laid off all front office employees. The Bay Area's NBA franchise also confirmed that it has been in contact with the WNBA about the possibility of taking over the Sparks. League President Laurel J. Ritchie confirmed the report on Thursday night that the WNBA has made contact with groups that have previously expressed interest in running a franchise. The Warriors are now confirmed to be among these groups. Warriors owner Joe Lacob is a longtime women's basketball supporter, a season ticket holder for Stanford women's basketball, and a former owner of the San Jose Lasers of the American Basketball League. Golden State Chief Operating Officer Rick Welts worked closely with then President Val Ackerman to launch the league back in 1997. So again, folks, today was the very first day where some group came forward and said and told President Ritchie, we want a franchise in your league. And again, folks, I know that the Sparks fans that are going to watch tonight are saying, yeah, but I wasn't going to support the team or this and that. But folks, this in a very small way, or very big way actually, this intervention by the Warriors ultimately saved the Sparks in the WNBA, saved the Sparks in the league. Not in saved the league as a whole, but saved the Sparks at least staying as a franchise, whether in Los Angeles or in Oakland, San Francisco, the Bay Area, wherever it may have been. But again, Joe Lacob realized, or again, began to realize what the Sparks would have done to the Bay Area to make them a year-round basketball attraction. When you have the Warriors playing during the winter in Oakland, you've got the Santa Cruz Warriors of the NBA D-League down in Santa Cruz, then hey, you got the girls playing over the summer, plus you got Stanford and Cal, two great, well-known women's basketball programs playing during the winter as well, coexisting with the Stanford men and the women. So there's a lot that you could have, there's a lot of options there, and again, I know that a lot of the Sparks fan base, I know 2/3 to maybe 3/4 were saying, no, I'm not going to have this, I won't stand for this, I have zero tolerance for this happening, because as we know that, again, most Sparks fans being Laker fans, and they wouldn't support a franchise owned by a rival in their division. But again, that was one part, though, again, too, was, I look at it this way, though, folks, is this was a positive no. This wasn't a negative, go ape crap over seeing the Sparks possibly leaving. Think of it, though, on a broader stage. Just think of this, folks. Hypothetical situation. The Sparks do leave and go to the Bay Area. At least the franchise remains in the league, and they don't fold. And also, that the league doesn't probably crumble and collapse. I know that Albert Lee said that he didn't agree with me last night that the league went under, but again, he does know, though, that if the Sparks left, it would have been a major hit to the league at this point in time. But I think, though, that, again, this wasn't a major negative problem. This was more so a good thing, again, because in spite of the ownership and the group coming forward, yes, it was not initially in Los Angeles, but again, at least someone out there, someone that had, the presence of mind to realize what was going on in this league. And again, Joe LaCobe, again, who was the biggest investor in the ABL in '97 with the Lasers, again, he knows how much and how good the product is. And again, he realized, though, too, perhaps that, again, the Bay Area, his part of town, again, has not had a WNBA franchise since the Monarchs went down in 2009, or maybe a bit earlier than that, may have been sometime in that time frame. But again, he knows, though, that if, in fact, they did get the franchise to run, that it would have been a very good show up there in the Bay Area. So, again, I'm not really having too much of this right now about, that this was a bad thing. This was not a bad thing. This was a good thing for one reason, again, that it keeps the Sparks as a franchise relevant during the negotiation process. It keeps them in the league, in the fold, and there's nothing going wrong right now. But again, Joe LaCobe, again, folks, came forward to President Rich and said, I would like to operate the Sparks if the opportunity does come in again. And Joe took advantage of it. I mean, he saw I'm sure him and the Warriors saw the situation. Here's a collapsing team in a league that my league, the NBA, runs, operates, and sponsors, and still sends money to, and still wants to keep afloat. And if we bring them up here, it can help the Warriors grow it more so as a brand and a franchise and a team. Because again, folks, knowing though about Stanford and Cal, how they've had so much great success over the past few years with their women's teams and also their men's teams have been phenomenal the past few years, dating back to even the late 2000s and even way before that, though, as well, with their programs. Again, I'll say again, folks, but again, I just don't think this was such a major negative. Again, I know that the Sparks fan base specifically saw this as a major negative because they didn't want to see their team leave. And I'm on that side of the story, though, yes, about them leaving. I wanted them to stay in LA. But again, looking though for the, looking out from the, looking from the crow's nest, from the top of the ship towards the other 11 teams again, LaCobe's interest, again, keeps LA involved, okay? It's not about them leaving, or at least folding, I should say. It keeps them, again, it keeps them on the food chart. They're in the food chain, and they're still in the league. Again, this wasn't about, the Sparks almost folding again, but again, Joe LaCobe, in my view, gets all the credit here. I mean, he saw the situation. He knows that he's a big, loyal contributor to the WNBA and women's basketball, I should say, not more so the W, but again, more so again, being that guy that shows interest in a sport that no one really cares about. And again, he also did, though, folks, as he said later on down the road, he said, I wanted to show my daughters that Daddy cares just as much about the women's game as he does his men's teams with the Warriors and Santa Cruz and Golden State. But he cares about the girls, though, playing too, about them playing. And, of course, with him being with the NBA, he knows very well, again, that Adam Silver and David Stern, but both Stern and Silver both support the WNBA, and they both support the NBA Development League. So, again, Joe wanted to be the bigger person here again, because I think if Joe was not involved, as I said last night, and Albert Lee said perfectly in his article, though, too about our show lesson again, is if Joe and the Warriors aren't involved, folks, in my view, the Sparks probably fold, and the league probably takes a major blow. Okay, I'll back off on saying the league folds as well, but I think, though, the league takes a major cap hit. They lose the second largest media market in the U.S. in LA, and then they only maintain technically 2 of the 4 remaining teams from '97. Because I really don't see the Stars being an original team. Yes, I know that they're still called the Stars, but they didn't stay in Utah. Had they stayed in Utah and say, okay, then it's down to a triple threat attack. But had LA gone down, though, folks, who would you really, I guess, sort of market to the fans? Phoenix, New York, probably those two because they're two of your remaining 4 franchises from '97. I mean, you could have probably marketed a Tulsa team that had so much young talent with Diggins and Sims, or Diana and Brittany with Phoenix, Sue Bird with Seattle. I mean, you could have done some things otherwise, but I think if you did not have the Sparks, you would not have any way to sort of market, I guess. Also, folks, well, I don't think any fans, Sparks fans or not, folks, I don't think any of you WNBA fans would really get the concept of seeing Candace Parker wearing either a different team's jersey or wearing blue and gold. I think you all be doing this like, how in the world how is Candace Parker not playing for Los Angeles? Whether you love her to death like I do, or in some cases you hate her guts for some reason. I just don't think you could have envisioned Candace Parker not playing for LA. That's sort of like seeing Kobe Bryant not playing for the Lakers, some point in time. I know he could have been with Charlotte, but again, I think when you get these star players, Candace Parker, you get Diana Taurasi, I don't think you can really see these WNBA superstars playing anywhere else. I've seen Candace go to the Bay Area or in the dispersal draft go to Connecticut. I would have to, double take, triple take. Like, how is my favorite player? How is CP3? One of my best friends on Twitter and Instagram. How is she not wearing purple and gold? I think we all would have been doing that for the entire season. I mean, it would take us probably until maybe next year to realize, okay, Parker's with Connecticut, Harding's with Tulsa, Tolliver's with New York. Okay, let's try to get this right, I guess, at this point in time. And again, folks, I think we can sort of thank and applaud Joe Lacob for keeping this team intact. Because again, folks, I will repeat again, but I just believe, though, you can disagree with me, you can disagree, or agree to disagree with me, folks, on Twitter, if you want to. But again, I just don't think that if Lacob and the Warriors were involved, that the Sparks would have lasted 35 days. I think they would have gone under and drowned it, I think, maybe 15 to 20 days into the watch. I know that Laurel tried her best, folks, but again, Joe Lacob, again, did his part, folks, and again, to the fan base real quick. I know that a lot of the Sparks fans were very irate when they heard the first news. And again, folks, I'll say that I was irate that, okay, great, here another team's going to move or relocate. Let alone it's the marquee WNBA franchise that's going to be leading Los Angeles, and that's the Sparks. But again, on that other side of the story, on the other side of the fence, folks, again, my reaction was the negative. That was the devil. I don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see the Sparks leave. Then the angel on my right shoulder. Look, someone's interested, and this is for the better part of the franchise as a whole. If they move, at least the franchise remains intact with Carol coaching, with Galen Klopp, plus Candace will be, plus Candace and her teammates up there. It's just that they won't be playing in Los Angeles. But again, they're still a franchise. They're still the 12th team in the league, and there's nothing that's going to, lead us wrong way about scheduling and about, having a 11-team league. But again, I know that a lot of the fan base, and I'll keep you guys honest, but I know that pretty much, folks, maybe, 70 to 90% of the fan base is like, I absolutely cannot stand, cannot tolerate, will not support seeing my Sparks leave for the Bay Area and be owned by my rival franchise, which would be the Golden State Warriors, again, knowing that, most of the Sparks fans are Laker fans. And frankly, folks, I think, though, that both LA teams, both Laker fans and Clipper fans that are Sparks fans were like, I cannot tolerate having my team, one of my teams, owned by one of my rival franchises. I just can't see that happening anytime soon. And I see where they came from. I mean, I totally get where they came from. Like, I can't support one of, my favorite team that's owned by a rival. And I would agree 100%. I was the same way. I couldn't, stand seeing the Sparks being owned by the Warriors. But again, it's not all a bad thing. Again, like I've been saying repetitively here, broken record, recycling the same material over and over again, folks, again, is for the future of the team at least, this was a positive day. Because this was the first group to break the shadow of the window and say, hi, I'm Joe Lacob of the Golden State Warriors. Pleasure to meet you, Laurel. We want a franchise in your league, how can you help us out? Or how can we at least be here to take part ownership of a team until someone tries to keep them in Los Angeles? And again, that is my main talking point here, folks, is look at this as a good thing more so than the bad side of the story. Again, I know that everybody that I know on Twitter said, I cannot tolerate, will not stand for, and cannot support the Sparks if they go to the Bay Area and they're owned by the Warriors, because I just can't see myself rooting for one of my teams that's owned by a rival franchise of one of my other teams, which is the Los Angeles Lakers or the LA Clippers. But again, ladies and gentlemen, today again was more so the first news we got of the Warriors coming to the forefront. Now that article, folks, I read from ESPNLA.com was on January 3rd, but the news didn't really come into full focus until January 6th, because we had the first news break on the 2nd. Then we had some more things about why the Madison family left on the 3rd. Then the 4th was when Chris and I began ironing out the petition campaign. Then the 5th and then yesterday the 5th we started the petition campaign. And today was when we got the real first news, I guess, of the Warriors intervening to this side of the story to keep, to at least try and get the Sparks back. Now, folks, let me shift my focus from the Sparks specifically to the Bay Area fan base. Now, again, folks, the Warriors, being at the forefront, folks, they have, again, they get a lot of credit, folks, but again, they knew what the Sparks meant to the WNBA, but again, folks, they were trying their best to sort of replicate what was going on in Los Angeles, trying to get a new arena for their team. Again, the Lakers have played at the Forum for so many years until '99, with the Kings and the Sparks there for a brief time, while the Clippers were stuck playing at the LA Sports Arena for their time when they left San Diego up there in '84 to go to Los Angeles. And again, when they got the new arena, when they got Staples Center, folks, the Lakers, Clippers, Kings, and Sparks all moved in there. And that is what the Warriors were trying to do, which was get the Sparks from LA and replicate that of what was going on in LA. New arena in the future and a year-round basketball experience for both men's basketball fans and WNBA fans, which would be having the Lakers and Clippers play over the wintertime, and then you had the Sparks come in over the summer and play at Staples Center. Now, the Warriors, I think we're trying to do the same exact thing. They were going to build their new arena in Frisco on the piers in San Francisco and have the Warriors play, along with their D-League affiliate in Santa Cruz, during the winter, and of course have the Bay Area Breakers, my official name for the Sparks up there, have the women's team playing over the summertime. And that, I think, is what Joe tried his best to do, again, was trying to, again, sort of revamp and re-spark that Bay Area women's basketball fan base. Because, as I've said, folks, so many times wholeheartedly here, but again, the Bay Area got robbed of the Monarchs. Again, a team that was a member of the original 8, the Elite 8 teams from 97. Again, to see that team go down, too, that had so many great players from Kara Braxton and Teacha Panichero, who won a title in 2005, to see them go down, too. And they had a really tough team at a really tough venue playing at Arco Arena. And again, folks, who was the Sparks' main rival? Again, Phoenix is the current main rival, but then you have that interstate NorCal, SoCal rivalry. You've got the Sparks and Monarchs, of course. The pinnacle of it, folks, or more so, I guess like the pinnacle in a way, was Lakers-Kings in 2002. I mean, that phenomenal series that the Kings were the #1 seed playing the Lakers, who had a pretty down season, and there was some chippiness. There was some balls being thrown back and forth between Phil Jackson and Shaq about the Sacramento Queens, and the cowbells going on at Arco Arena. And what was the classic series? Robert Horry's game-winning shot to keep the series afloat with the Lakers, and then, of course, they go up there and smack down the Kings, in Sacramento. And also, folks, You know that the Kings fan base still has not given the Lakers for that series in 2002. That when the Sparks and Monarchs played, it was the same sort of drama-filled game. There was some chippiness, some slugging going on, some pushing and shoving, some extracurricular activities, folks. But again, that I think is why Joe LaCobe came to the forefront, at least, was to try to, again, to at least revamp that Bay Area women's basketball fan base. And folks, I still think, though, that if, in fact, when the Warriors and Kings get their new arenas, folks, we will see WNBA basketball in the very distant future back in the Bay Area, either with the Warriors or with the Kings again. Either the Monarchs come back or LaCobe gets his team back or gets his team in the W in the next 2 to 3 years, perhaps, folks. But again, that, I think, though, is another intriguing aspect, folks, again, as I think LaCobe doing it, too, to bring the Sparks up there again, to try to revamp that women's basketball fan base. And we know about Stanford and Cal, but again, the pro level with the Warriors has gone off the chart. I mean, their attendance, folks, at Oracle Arena has skyrocketed since Klay Thompson, Steph Curry started going off with since the Splash Bros came in there a few years ago. And to see that arena packed and to see the Warriors back on the relevant side of the story, folks, instead of being doormats for so long, that would have been a thing that I think Joe LaCobe wanted, was to have both of to have his main 2 focus points, the Warriors and Warriors, in Cruz and in Golden State, folks, thriving off success and having great seasons, and then bringing a team from LA that has talent, that had Candace Parker, Neko Ogwumike, and had Jantel Lavender, bringing bringing those 3 great players and their friends, Minty, Faria, Ice, Lindsay, and everyone else on the roster, bringing them to the Bay Area, folks, again, I think was what LaCobe was trying to do. And again, we know that, I know, folks, at least 70% of the fan base was like, we can't stand for this, and that's one deal as well. But again, folks, Alma State last year, the first news broke to us again that Joe LaCobe, the current owner of the NBA's Golden State Warriors and the NBA D-League Santa Cruz Warriors, was the first person to express interest in the Los Angeles Sparks franchise after the team was put up for sale by the Madison family back last year. Folks, a quick reminder here again. We know that we got to it briefly, but again, folks, the Sparks yesterday hired former Seattle Storm head coach and GM Brian Agler to become their 12th head coach in team history, folks. We'll have more about that later on during the course of the week when we get a chance to talk about this stuff. But of course, folks, we are mainly here for the petition campaign and plus recapping what was a very turbulent, a very, very shocking, and a very, very roller coaster ride of emotion for the Sparks and WNBA fan bases as we continue to recap the 1 year since the Sparks were put up for sale in a offseason that almost ended the Sparks as a franchise and very well could have ended the WNBA as a league as well. Folks, also today we wanted to give another shout out here to our main guy, Albert Lee from Switchfield.com, folks, for a tremendous, tremendous article written about our show last night in regards to, again, Albert posted the video to the show from last night in a great, great article that he wrote about the 1 year anniversary of the petition, folks. Again, Albert, James, and Nate were the 3 gentlemen that were at the forefront with us here to battle the WNBA to keep the Sparks in Atlanta again. Again, folks, we'll go back and thank the guys again and thank everyone else again for their support. But again, if Albert, James, and Nate didn't have their 35-day special called Sparks Watch, if they were not around to tell us what was going on, the Sparks fan base would have no knowledge of that situation whatsoever. They would not know what was going on with the team because they were the only 3 gentlemen that knew what on earth was going on with this situation and what was going on there with them, with the Sparks situation again. And whenever there was something, any small little rumor, some small little corner, some little talk on the street corner broke, boom, there was Albert, there was Nate, there was James telling people, okay, guys, look, here's the latest here, folks. We'll come back, check back with me about an hour, and I'll see if I have something else. They're basically the eyes and earball. They were basically the eyeballs and earlids for the WNBA and Sparks fan bases, because again, they were the only people that knew what was going on with the situation. And to know that Albert, James, and Nate have been in full support of me and Chris, if he does come back to the network, but that they have been, you know, 3 of our great correspondents and 3 great people that we have formed alliances with over the offseason and last year because of the specific issue, folks. You know, they deserve a lot of credit, more so than me and Chris for the petition campaign, because again, they were the only people that knew what was going on. I mean, I had no knowledge of it. Chris had no knowledge of it, because the Sparks and the WNBA were quiet during that 35-day wait, because Laura Ritchie said this was a private matter. Please don't ask us about this. But James, Nina, and Albert, anytime there was some sort of news, they were right there to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what's going on, and we'll keep you folks posted again. And they kept us posted, folks, for 35 damn days. Albert, James, and Nate were basically working about as hard as me and Chris for that petition. They were probably, as tired as we were with just keeping the fan base in the loop. And again, for 35 consecutive days, Bowman, Parham, and Lee kept McClurg and Woodmansey, the Sparks and WNBA fan base, in their circle of friends about what was going on with this ongoing problem that was the Sparks situation. And again, folks, you can go check out switchfield.com for Albert Lee's tremendous article. Albert has done a great, Albert, James, and Nate have done a hell of a job on SA.com for keeping every fan base, keeping all of us WNBA and women's basketball fans, in their circle of friends about what's going on with the W, with the W, FIBA, college, any other high school, or any other basketball at the women's level that they can tell us on. That and much more. And also, folks, on a very, very somber note, today, folks, is a pretty rough day for current Sparks guard and one of my best friends, Candace Wiggins. Today, back in 1991, Candace lost her father, the great Padres second baseman, great Padre, Oriole, and Dodger, Alan Wiggins. Her dad passed away today from AIDS in 1991. And, folks, Nate, speaking of Nate, shout out to Nate Parham, folks. He actually just retweeted the Sparks Network because we did link you folks to a tremendous, heartfelt, sincere tissue box sort of status with a tremendous blog piece that was written by Candace herself about her father that you guys can go check out at cwigginsroll.com/mytestimony. Again, folks, if you don't know about this, but again, if you also didn't catch my interview with Candace Wiggins, folks, but again, Candace Wiggins' father, Alan, was a professional baseball player. He played for Baltimore, the Padres, and the Dodgers. He played, of course, with the Padres with the late great Tony Gwynn. Plus, he was a part of the 1998 or 1984 Padres that went to the World Series in that season. And after his career ended, he went down the wrong path, unfortunately, and drugs entered his life. And Alan passed away from AIDS in 1991. And Candace, when I asked her about her father during my interview, folks, and actually when I asked her about Tony Gwynn back in October and what she gave me, she says, or she told me that it's really tough for me to even sit here and talk about this. But when Candace Wiggins told me, folks, during my interview that when she was more sad about Tony Gwynn's passing than her own father's passing, that really shocked me because, you think to yourself, why would one of your best friends' death be more tough on you than someone that is your own flesh and blood that has the same last name as you? That's your family. That's your dad. And she said, I didn't know what was going on with my dad. I was very young. I didn't know what was going on. And it's actually hard to talk about this without me getting very, very emotional about Tony Gwynn's passing. So, and I even told her today on Twitter, I said, Candace, and I said, Candace, like I told you back during an interview, Ice, is the Wiggins family is number one down here in San Diego. You know, wherever you and your brother may go with your careers, always remember that you guys are number one in San Diego. And I wanted her to know that, because I even told her that too during the interview. Was, you know, we know that, you know, we know what your dad did for the Padres in '84, so don't feel like you're alone. You know, you have the entire city behind you when we go to Padre games, and whenever they do bring up the '84 team, we always will think about your dad, Alan. And folks, I actually do encourage you to please go read that testimony, that blog piece written by Candace Wiggins herself, folks. It's on cwigginsworld.com/mytestimony, or please go to our Twitter page at LASparks365 and click on the link to it. It's under the must-read caption tagline about Candace's father passing away today, back in '91 from AIDS. With that, folks, we will call it a night here. We'll see you folks back here in a couple days with our next update here on Sparks Watch. 1 year later, but off-season and almost into the WNBA. Emma Sparks, but until sometime soon, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thank you all for coming, and good night now. This has been the LA Sparks 365 Network. We are still the Sparks. We are still in LA, and we still are in the WNBA. See you folks sometime soon. Right back here on your home for the Sparks and the WNBA, LAS 365. See you folks next time. Bye-bye.